welcome, Chuck.
Thank you.
Please come and make your presentation,
Will do.
please. You just take a shower and get rid of all your smoke.
Oh, got it.
Morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Derek. Hey, Chuck. Thanks for being here.
Do you guys want to stand up, sit down?
Whatever
Whatever
you're
you're
comfortable
comfortable
with. We don't stand
How
on.
about we have a conversation?
Okay, that works for us.
All right, good. So I decided to switch things up a little bit this time and actually bring you guys a PowerPoint that USI put together, which is basically the healthcare market outlook. Because in the last 2 to 2.5 years, we have seen unprecedented things in a lot of areas of our life, right? So I'll try to go quickly so I don't take up too much of your time. On the very first page, this is this gentleman is our national practice leader, but on the very first page, you'll see a lot of our observations as a company on what's going on in the healthcare industry. So very tough obstacles for business owners, whether it's a large company, small company, very difficult obstacles right now. Competition for talent. I don't know how all of you are doing with it, but even us as a company are struggling. It is really, really difficult. I have a client who's a forklift operator in South Jersey, and they had to pay their technicians. They had to go from like $19 an hour to $28 an hour and pay them stay bonuses just to come to work. So it has been a challenge across the industry for sure, and it is affecting healthcare. And it's affecting healthcare because there are a lot of people looking for subsidies on their healthcare. There are a lot of people that are on COBRA and are looking for the government to fund their healthcare. So that is a challenge. Budgeting is going to be difficult for all of the business owners. And the reason that budgeting is difficult is because all of the healthcare companies are crying wolf, right? Oh, well, people are re-engaging in the healthcare system now. So it is really difficult for us to budget how that works. We're here to tell you that after the vaccines were out a little over a year ago, it's all BS. It's all BS. The trend that you see is that people got used to living in a virtual world, so they're not really engaging with primary care physicians. They're waiting until they get sick, and then they go to urgent care or the emergency room. They're not re-engaging with primary care physicians. So what's happening with primary care physician groups is they're all getting gobbled up. So the place that I've gone for 20 some years living in Chalfont just was acquired by Jefferson, right? So now it's really hard to get an appointment. I called the main doctor. I'm like, look, I've been a patient for 25 years and now you're telling me it takes a week to get in? It's because people were not engaging in the healthcare system, so now they have all these virtual meetings. So you guys as employers have to figure out how are we going to support our employees and help them with virtual education, giving them tools to access care virtually. The other really big observation that we have seen, and this is a big deal, is people aren't going for their preventive care anymore because of COVID. They are not going. And routine physicals, mammographies, colonoscopies, GYN checkups, people are still uncomfortable going on site to a lot of places. And the healthcare system is making it difficult for people to get in. I think I heard you say cataract surgery. My mother-in-law just had cataract surgery, and they scheduled it so far out. And it was right here on County Line Road. They scheduled it so far out because of just how overwhelmed they are and the staffing. They don't have the staffing either to support it. So it is a really challenging time.
Yeah, I just tried to make an appointment with Grandview. I was on hold for like 30 minutes,
Yep.
counting down on the queue.
Oh, yeah.
And then when I got to be number one, I got bumped to a voicemail and I haven't got a call back. I was
Yeah.
ready to go.
So, go ahead.
Routine.
So I can only imagine the lack of people having preventive maintenance and preventive checkups is going to just put additional pressure on the urgent care and the ERs.
and absolutely correct. And maybe more importantly, on your healthcare plans for your employees.
It's more expensive.
Because when you walk into an urgent care facility, the bill starts at about $350 just to walk in the door. You walk into Abington, the old North Penn Hospital, you walk in there, you walk into Doylestown or Grandview, the bill starts in the emergency room, it starts at $1,000 if you're lucky.
I just got out of there, I can tell you that.
That's just to pay the meter, right? Like that's just to literally
I
walk
spent-
in the door.
4 days in the hospital, 2 of them in the emergency ward, the bill's over $10,000.
Oh yeah, it does not surprise me.
Without the medication, that's all different charges, that's just
Yep.
that part.
Yep, so you're absolutely right that it's putting additional strain on urgent care facilities, on emergency rooms, but also on your healthcare plans because people aren't accessing the healthcare system the right way. Right now, people should go to the emergency room, they should go to urgent care, absolutely, but my older daughter had something where she hurt her ankle and she was having trouble walking. I said, go to urgent care and let them take an x-ray, make sure there's nothing broken. And she went there and they said it was like a 5-hour wait. I went, all right, just leave. And that was at Patient First, right near Michael's up here.
Right.
So it was a 5-hour wait. And I said, all right, just leave, we'll come home, we'll ice it, we'll take some Advil, and then, but people aren't getting their preventive care and they're not engaging in the healthcare system the right way. So what do we suggest? We suggest you gotta talk to your employees about re-engaging in the healthcare system the right way. Again, it's a product of what has happened in the industry, right? And because of COVID, I mean, I had to do face-to-face visits with my doctor once or twice during COVID, right? But now, I mean, I hate to say it this way, and please don't take this as a generic statement, but what we have seen with our employees is there's a laziness factor where, well, I don't want to have to go and get my preventive care done. So here are some scary stats as of a couple of months ago. 25% of the people in the United States are now getting their preventive care.
How many?
25%.
What was it before?
55%. So it's in half. So people have stopped going. Guess what all of your health plans have in common? Regardless of whether it's a high deductible plan,
Free cover.
What?
all preventive care is covered 100%. They're not allowed to charge you towards a deductible, a copay, nothing. They're not allowed to do it. So preventive care is free. And it doesn't cost you anything, but here's what a lot of the doctor's offices are now doing. If you go and say, I'm here for my physical, and then you say, by the way, my shoulder's been bothering me, they change it, they code it completely differently. It's no longer a preventive visit, and they will charge you their fee, their per diem fee that they charge, what's called a capitation. They get capitation, and then they send billing codes to Blue Cross, Aetna, Cigna, United. They're sending these billing codes to them now saying, oh, I saw them for this, they asked me about a shoulder, and I diagnosed, and so now the cash register just keeps change. So communication becomes very, very important.
But what should you say if you have the doctor's asking you, your
Schedule.
physical, what's going on?
Schedule a different visit. Because they're not counting it as a preventive care and a preventive visit anymore. And then they shift from where they can make a shift to where they can make money. Has anybody tried to schedule a physical lately? It's not easy.
No.
They're months out to just get a half-hour physical or a 45-minute physical with your doctor. It's months out to try to do that. So what we're suggesting, Jay, is that you schedule a different visit with your doctor. But skin checks, there's been an increase in skin cancers, believe it or not, because people aren't going for their skin checks. Last week, all right, so people aren't going for their skin checks, so there's an increase there. There's an increase, unfortunately, in breast cancers over the last year and a half. Why? Because people aren't going for their mammographies. So there's been an increase there. All of that is why the healthcare carriers are saying, oh, but you don't understand, claims are gonna go up. So here's what's important for you guys. it's important that you consider every option in the market and don't just say, well, IDC, that's who we've been with forever and they're the best, right? So I had a conversation with IDC last week. I won't say who, but I'll just say that they were very high up. And IDC literally said they're inflating their rates 5% right now because they know that you have to negotiate off of that 5%. So it's like Joseph A. Banks. Anybody ever buy a suit at Joseph A. Banks? Right before they throw it, they put this big sale. Buy one suit and get the second suit half off. They increase the rates 30%, just so the sale, they still break even. So IDC is literally telling us that they're loading their rates 5%, knowing that they're going to have to negotiate off of that. Cigna and United, but mostly United. United has told us, and this is the God's honest truth, that there's an 11% load for COVID that they are applying right now to groups. 11%. That's higher than trend in the healthcare industry, which is about 8%. So United, if you do the math, United Healthcare starts at 8%, then they load your rates 11% with COVID. So their rates, like out of the gate, are 19% higher than they were the year before, and none of it is warranted. None of it. The data doesn't support it because you just heard me say a few minutes ago, people aren't engaging in the healthcare system the same way. So what they're saying is, well, we've seen a slight uptick in urgent and emergency care utilization, but they're not seeing the uptick at the family doctor or the preventive services. So it's important that you look at all of the options, right? So the BUCA, we call them the BUCAs, the Blues, United, Cignas, and Aetnas. Let them battle it out, right? Cigna in this area had never been a viable alternative. Now they are, right? Their network is 97%, 98% the size of the Blues, where 5-6 years ago, and now, we worked through this together, Cigna used to be 88% the size. You can't do that to your employees, where 1 out of every 10 of your employees are got to change their doctor. They're not going to be able to access their healthcare system. Now Cigna has built up, we're probably putting more business with Cigna right now than anybody else because they will negotiate, because they have strong communication tools that will tell your employees, go get your preventive care. Here's how to engage the healthcare system. So one thing that we're doing for our clients, and I would suggest doing, depending on the size of your business, is you've got to encourage people to go get their preventive visits again. 25% of the healthcare system getting their visits is why there's an uptick in skin cancers and breast cancers and things like that. So one of the strategies that we're doing is saying that tell your employees to go get at least 3 preventive visits a year. Have them come in with proof that they've gone for their preventive visit, and then you'll give them a premium differential. So at USI, for example, what we do is we have to go get a routine physical, blood work, and do 3 preventive visits every year, and then we charge a 30% differential in our rate for people that go get it done versus people that don't. But it's a way to engage the healthcare people, to engage in the healthcare system again. So you don't have to be a 30% differential. You don't have to say, I'm going to charge you $100 and only $30 to go get it done. You can say, well, we're going to put an extra $250 in your HSA if it's a high deductible plan or something like that if you go get this done. But you've got to get people to engage in the healthcare system. You've got to look at every alternative strategy that is out there right now. So there's on the what they call the funding spectrum, there is what most people have, which is fully insured. It means we pay IDC a premium, we pay Aetna a premium, they handle everything, and then we ask our employees to pay this much of a deductible, this much of a copay. But there are products out there now that are what they call level funding. Some of you may have heard it, some of you may not. But level funding basically is a self-funded contract. So it's a contract that looks exactly like you're fully insured. It looks the exact same way. But technically, they just say it's self-insured instead of fully insured. Why do they do that? When you're fully insured, you have to pay the ACA premium tax, the Affordable Care Act premium tax of almost 4%. You have to pay state tax of 2%, and then you've got to pay carrier risk and margin. So that's about 8 to 10% right out of the gate, that when you have a self-funded contract, you get rid of. You don't have to pay any of those three things. Then when you're level funded, you pay level premiums every month, just like you are right now with any of the carriers that you're with. You pay level premiums, but now, and this is important, you're getting your healthcare data. You're getting your claims that tells you whether they're renewals or BS or not. And I'll tell you, most of the renewals are BS. So when you're level funded, whether you have 8 employees or 80 employees or 800 employees, they're now going to tell you, here's how people are using the medical system every month. If you have less than 100 employees right now, none of the insurance carriers tell you how your plan ran, how your claims are going. They don't tell you. But if you're level funded, you'll get your claims data every month. And then here's the best part. At the end of the year, they do basically what's called a true up or a surplus. If your plan, let's say that your health plan was, you were supposed to pay $100,000 in premium, and you in claims, right? So you were projected to be $100,000 in claims, and you only came in at $70,000. You had a $30,000 surplus. You can get half, if not all, of that surplus back. If you run at a deficit, so you were supposed to be at 100 grand, you were at 130 grand, you don't owe it. So that's what we mean about, and in here we talk about alternative strategies, right? Look at those things, because, you know, one of my favorite sayings right now is you gotta get off the hamster wheel, right? And take the power back from the healthcare companies, because they're crying wolf. And this, I think I may have talked this, but this was a couple years ago, the last time we met in person. On all of your healthcare plans, on all of your pharmacy plans, so there's a pharmacy component where you pay either deductible, copay, you go pick up your scripts. Well, a lot of people take now specialty medications, Humira, Sovaldi, right? There are these, all the advertised medicines that you see on TV, right? They're all what they call specialty medications. Were any of you guys aware that with all of the specialty medications, that those medications come with rebates back from the drug manufacturer that they're paying to the healthcare company? So there's a hepatitis C drug out there called Harvoni. Harvoni is 99.9% cure rate. It's a miracle drug. It's still under patent, which means it's $90,000 for a 3-month treatment. Any of the health insurance carriers get about 50,000 of that back. And they don't have to tell you that they did. So there are pharmacy rebates that all of your healthcare companies are getting, and they don't have to disclose it in any of the data that they show you. So you've seen some of the politicians, how fitting it is that we're talking about today, right? But you've seen some of the politicians talk about the pharmacy system is broken. So this is a bad example, but I have a large client in Charlotte, North Carolina. They have about 1,200 employees. They had a lot of you I'm sure have heard of Express Scripts. A lot of prescription plans are through Express Scripts. We took Express Scripts from giving 10% of the rebates back to this client to 100% of the rebates back. And in the first year, they got over $1 million in rebates back. Over $1 million. And so it's very, the healthcare system is very corrupt, but I don't think it's ever going to go to socialized medicine, not ever. And the reason that I don't think that, it's too big of a business. It drives way too much revenue in this country. So that leaves employers to say, all right, well, we need information in our head to challenge the integrity of what these insurance carriers are doing. So you have to challenge COVID loads. Challenge the integrity of a COVID load, because it's just not, the data doesn't support it right now. So yes, has there been a slight uptick in urgent emergency care? Yes, but there have been downticks in other places. You know, my brother-in-law, terrible example, but he stopped taking his blood pressure medication during COVID because it was just a pain in the butt. He didn't want to walk into a pharmacy, so he stopped taking it. Like, dumbest move ever, right? You can't ever stop blood pressure medication without a doctor either weaning you down or more than likely never stopping it, right? Because it's regulating your blood pressure. He just stopped taking it. He's 61 years old, his face is bright red every day, and he's stopped taking his medication. But unfortunately, that's what we're seeing happening. So consider different strategies, right? Consider level funding, look at it, right? There are level funded carriers that will quote for 10 employees. For 8 employees, there are level funded plans that will do that. They'll go up to as much as 300 employees, but they'll look at that. I have a client in Broomall that just got an $80,000 rebate check back from Cigna. $80,000 at the end of the year because their claims just they weren't what they projected their claims to be.
Which carriers do level funding?
Cigna and United will do it. And then there are TPAs, or third-party administrators, Jay, and those third-party administrators will, they'll rent a network like an Aetna, Cigna, or United. Aetna's level-funded product is called AFA, affordable something, but it's called AFA. United Healthcare, you just have to ask them for their level-funded product. The one carrier, of course, that is behind everybody else are the Blues, where they just are like, we're making too much money on fully insured, why would we have level funding? So why would we give rebates, but why would we give surpluses back if we don't need to? When we own 65 to 68% of the market, why would we do that? So, you know, our suggestion here is to make sure that you consider all of the options. If you have a broker, talk to your broker and say, we want to see level funded options. Challenge the broker or challenge the healthcare carrier on the COVID loads. How much of our renewal this year was a COVID load? And if it was 5%, 8%, 11%, absolutely not. A COVID load right now should be no higher than 1 or 2%, and I would even challenge that. It just isn't substantiated. So I would do that. So real quickly, I'll shift to communicating with your employees. Go ahead.
Really quickly, concerning the COVID load, obviously prior to March of 2020, it wasn't necessarily a thing.
Yep.
How big were the COVID loads, or are they trying to get money from losses that they had in 2020 and 2021?
So that's exactly what they're trying to do. And it's the, you know, before March of 2020, nobody knew what COVID was going to look like. If you remember when it first came out, it was like, oh, just stay home for 2 weeks and then you should be good. And here we are, you know, 2 years plus later, and there's still variants out there that we're dealing with, right?
So they're just trying to recoup costs.
They're trying to recoup costs, but here's why you can't let them. Show of hands, how many of you got a rebate check during COVID back, or a premium holiday from one of the insurance carriers during COVID? So a lot of clients, like Blue Cross in October of 2020, told all their clients, we're giving you a half a month premium holiday. You don't have to pay your bill in October for the whole bill, just whatever it is, just cut it in half. Do you know why that is? They did that because people weren't accessing the healthcare system and they had to return some of the money back, or they were gonna have to give you what's called an MLR, or a medical loss ratio rebate check. So rather than cutting all these customers, all these checks, they said, we're gonna give you a premium holiday. If you switch, now how can they cry COVID load if they're giving premium holidays?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, it doesn't make sense, that's why you need to challenge it. Communicating with your employees, really critical that you're doing things to encourage people to make sure they're paying attention to the material that you're handing out. And the days of, oh yeah, well, here's your benefit summary from Blue Cross, just take a look at it, that shouldn't be the case anymore, because people aren't accessing the healthcare system anymore. You should be encouraging people. It's time to re-engage with the system. It's time to get your preventive visits scheduled. It's time to make sure you're taking your medicine. There's only one doctor in all of the different medical doctors out there. There's only one doctor that is responsible for managing all of somebody's care. And it's not urgent care, it's not emergency room, it's your primary care doctor. They're responsible for looking at your blood work. They're responsible for getting you to a orthopedic if your knee is bothering you, if your shoulder. They're the ones responsible for doing that. You go to the cardiologist, that's not their job. My mother-in-law went to Jefferson, Abington here and on off Broad Street, she went there last week to a GI doctor, a gastrointestinal doctor, and she said, well, I have to keep clearing my throat. And he said, well, that's because you have something called Barrett's esophagus, but I don't do that, go to an ENT. So he diagnosed it, but then said, you gotta go to an ENT instead. So unfortunately she has dementia, so she didn't know to say, look, you need to work with me here, and you need to tell me what do I need to do. So now she had to wait 3 months to go see the ENT guy, until my wife said, will you make a phone call and get her in sooner, and I did. So the theme for today that I would say, and I put this together, and I'll leave you guys some extra copies, is take the power back. Take the power back as employers and challenge the integrity of the renewals. Look at the alternatives that are out there. Happy to be a resource for any of you. My contact information is right on the cover page here. If you just have a question, you want to run something by me, you can stay with your broker, but I'll happy to be a resource for you if you want me to answer any questions that you might have. But it's time to take the power back, not only for you guys as business owners, but also for your employees, and re-engage in the healthcare system. And if you do that, you consider the different strategies that are out there, it's important that you do that. And now more than ever, your benefits are a way to recruit talent to come to the company, right? So if you have access to a benchmarking study, if you don't, tell me, I'll send you our benchmarking study. Our benchmarking study is real time, so it'll tell you, Jay and Alan, in your businesses, real estate or car business, we can show you, here's what 50 other dealerships are doing in Montgomery and Bucks and Delaware and Chester counties in terms of plan designs, in terms of contributions, in terms of wellness, in terms of PTO, in terms of salaries. Like, we can give you a benchmarking study that's showing you that by industry, by geography. But take the power back. Take the power back. This is the healthcare companies they're building up their reserves more and more and more and more, and still crying wolf. And it's just not warranted. So it was really good to see everybody again. Glad to see everybody is healthy and hanging in there with what's been happening in the last 2 years, and maybe more importantly than everything, it's really nice to be in front of people.
Yeah.
It's just so nice.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
It didn't happen to me, but it's happened to several of my friends where they've called and they're like, I don't feel good, I got a cough, I have this. Oh, if you have symptoms of COVID, you gotta go to urgent care, you need to come in the office. What is that all about?
They don't want people in the office, and they wanna kind of redirect them somewhere else. What we're telling our employees, and what a lot of the primary care doctors are saying, is get a home test. So
Right.
get the Binax test, or the government. Most of your employees know they can still get tests for free.
Yeah, I just got something
They
today
just-
that they're
yeah,
doing a third wave.
eight more tests.
Yeah,
Yep,
third wave
yep.
of tests.
So that's supposed to run through June 15th now. My guess will be they're going to extend it again. But, the healthcare system has made it pretty difficult. So when President Biden said that we're going to make all employers and all health plans cover it until April 15th, that was the initial mandate. The healthcare company said we need to raise 2%. We have to pay for all these tests. Well, if your employees go to CVS and they pick up a test, they then have to ask your insurance carrier for a claim form. They've got to fill out the claim form to get reimbursed $25. What do you think most people do? They don't do it.
They don't do it.
So, but they're going to try to charge you another 1 or 2% just for the testing kits, right? When the government will send you 8 a month for free. So right now, the mandate is that it has to be covered, the testing kits have to be covered through at least June. I wouldn't be surprised if they either extended it, or during the summer, because people can be outside a little bit more, it stops, and then September 15th, they do it again. Right, because cold and flu season starts, and you don't know the difference. Like, my daughter had this strain of COVID. She lives in Philadelphia, and she has this new strain of COVID that's out right now, and it's basically a head cold, right? And she took the antiviral medication, and was literally about 80% better the next day. it's like Prolaclid or something like that, it was called. She literally took 2 doses in one day, and the next day she has asthma, and she was like, I feel 80% better. 2 days later, she was like, I never even had it. So, you know, again, guys, take the power back. Realize that your benefits are being used to recruit, retain, and reward people now more than ever. Because the job market is so difficult. People are looking at, all right, well, they're gonna pay 80% of my health care, and this place is only gonna pay 70%. I'm gonna go there. Their plan's way richer than this plan, so I'm gonna go over there. People are doing that again. So my contact information is on here. I'm sorry to take so long chatting, but there was a lot of updates in 2.5 years. So, but it's very good to see all of you, and I thank you for your time. I've got to run to Wayne to another meeting, but my information's on here. I'm happy to be a resource for any of you.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you very
It's
much.
been my pleasure. Great seeing you guys. I'll leave some extra copies here for you.
Sure, please.
All right. Have fun with the rest of your meeting. Great seeing everybody.
Thank you, too. Take care.